Yes, so we are going to talk about a little game called Croc that actually started as a spin-off Mario game that was supposed to feature Yoshi. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about Croc and why you should care about it. Croc has a lot of similarities to, Banjo Kazooie and a lot of those other 3D platformers of the time, as Croc, the original game called Croc Legend of the Gobbos, came out in 1997, so same time as Banjo Kazooie, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Super Mario 64, and all those great collectathons and 3D platformers of that era. And this one just sort of got passed by a lot of people because it wasn't as popular, but it's really good in my opinion. Croc was another really easy character to get attached to, very much like Crash and Spyro and those guys like I just mentioned. There was actually a sequel, Croc 2, that came out in 1999, but it was very much just a proper sequel and it expanded on the first game, kept a lot of the concepts and gameplay the same, and I actually never played that, so the gameplay and everything you're going to see here going forward is going to be talking about Croc 1, but just want to point that out really quick. So I think Croc is one of the best examples of having a great balance of difficulty and objectives, especially for the time that it was released. Basically, each level had different tiers of objectives for increased difficulty. Obviously, the first objective is just getting from the very start of the level to the end. You could just do that, not collect really anything, and just get to the end of the level and you beat the level. The next thing you could do is collect all of the Gobbos, those little fuzzy guys. Then the next step of difficulty after that would be collecting all 5 colored crystals, and what this would do is unlock an extra room at the end of the level that you could do, which was a little bit more challenging than the rest of the level. So there's 4 main islands. You have the forest, ice, desert, and castle islands, and in each of these there's 6 normal levels, 2 guardian levels, which are just kind of bosses, where one would be after the first 3 levels and then the other one would be at the end of all the levels, and then there was also 2 secret levels per island. The secret levels are unlocked by collecting all of the Gobbos in the levels preceding the secret level, and in each of these secret levels there's actually no colored crystals and there's no Gobbos. The only objective is to actually collect a jigsaw piece, which is at the end of the level. So each of these 4 main islands has 2 secret levels, so there's 8 jigsaw pieces. And then if you collect all 8 of those jigsaw pieces, you unlock the 5th final bonus crystal island, which has 5 extremely challenging levels with no Gobbos or crystal doors. So yeah guys, let's just put this in perspective a bit. Each level, you have Gobbos to collect as one challenge, crystals as the second challenge, then adding a third difficulty would be completing the secret levels to collect all the jigsaw pieces, and then finally the 4th difficulty would then be completing the crystal island. So this is a great tier of difficulty for any player of any range of ability, I think. Now, Croc isn't just about really good gameplay and good difficulty, it has a great story and presentation. Obviously, the graphics probably don't look great from what you're seeing as I recorded this footage on my PS2, and this game is from 1997. So, either way, the game is very charming, okay? It has a whole slew of cute and menacing characters. We have King Rufus, who is the king of the Gobbos. We have Baron Dante, who is the main boss. And then also we have Croc, of course, who is a cute crocodile who is based loosely on Yoshi, really. So basically what happens is Croc washes ashore an island and is raised by these Gobbos as a vegetarian who eats mostly peas. So he's a vegetarian crocodile. And the king and other Gobbos are kidnapped by this Baron Dante guy, and his minions are called Dantinis, who are these little devils and have a very creepy laugh. And the whole game is just very cute and adorable on the surface, especially in the opening areas like the forest. Much like a Yoshi or Kirby game, really, It just has this really cute aesthetic to it. But Croc also has like these nightmarish places and characters that are depicting like evil devils, and like we have the castle and the crystal islands that are really creepy. And The great thing too about Croc is, it's its own take on the collectathons of the era. It has its own unique world building where each level is broken up into small, open world-like sections. Very small, obviously, by today's standards, but it had different ways to get through each room sometimes, and each area also had optional areas to branch off into. There were little dungeons you could go into, you had those extra colored crystal doors that you could get into at the end of the level, and so it was just a nice mix to the formula. The graphics were on par with other platformers, I think, of the time. I think overall the game, the presentation, and the story was really good. So if Croc's adorable sayings aren't enough for you to get hooked, then I honestly don't know what will. There's also a large variety of tunes to fit these very unique landscapes, of the green forest beginnings to the dark castles and Crystal Island at the end of the game. And the main theme is also very playful, and it is really reminiscent, in my opinion, of Yoshi, which, makes sense because it was basically built as a Yoshi prototype game from the beginning. Obviously, if you can't tell by now, I strongly recommend this game if you've never played it. It's actually not necessarily on a Nintendo console, which is interesting, which I'm going to get to in a second. Really the right way to play it would be on PlayStation, so PS1, PS2. It might also be available on PC, but there was also remakes of it for Game Boy Color, which obviously it doesn't do the game justice at all because it turns it from 3D into like a 2D side-scrolling thing, and it's just not worth it. So really you should be playing it on PlayStation. But yeah, let's talk about if there's any hope for this ever being like revived. This is why I wanted to talk about this, because we just got Spyro, we just got Crash Bandicoot, and those are from the same time period as Croc. And so it would be really nice to see this franchise come back, but based on the history of it, I'm not sure that's necessarily going to happen. Croc was developed by Argonaut Games and published by Fox Interactive, and both of those companies went out of business in the early 2000s. And as far as we know, the original creator of Croc, he actually owns the IP still today. So, I'm not sure if there's any way to kind of get the rights for that game, but I would obviously love for Nintendo to revive this IP if that was ever possible. That's a dream I can have. They do have a history together. Argonaut Games, at least at the time, when they were still a thing, they had a history with Nintendo because they actually created Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, and the whole reason that game worked is because they created this Super FX chip, is what they called it, for the SNES, which allowed for true 3D, which obviously, again, by today's standards was not great, but they helped really pioneer that for SNES. And Star Fox 2 was created in 1996, and we never even ended up seeing it until when the SNES Classic came out in 2017, and that game was also developed by Argonaut Games. So, I don't know if it's possible for this game to ever be revived, but I wanted to just get the word out there because all these other 3D platformers are getting all this love, and why not Croc? Croc was beloved by me especially. Like, at the time, I was definitely playing Crash, definitely playing Spyro, but I really played a lot of Croc with my siblings too, so I kind of want to go play it again now because I had a really fun time recording all this gameplay. So that's it for this one though, guys. If you did like this video, please drop a like. There are other 3D platformers that have kind of been forgotten about that I'd also like to talk about, so I will see you guys in the next one.